Welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast, a podcast for creatives. I'm your host, Tammy Takeishi. Join me for compelling conversations with artists, actors, authors, musicians, and other creatives about the impact of the creative and fine arts in their lives and our ever-changing world. Thank you for listening. Hello, and welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast. Today, my guest is Angela Di Paola. She is a social worker by trade and a self-development coach and consultant in practice. She has developed coaching programs that help her clients find focus and purpose, and she's also the author of a book, That's Life, or Is It? Reclaiming Time for Yourself, a women's guide to discovering lasting happiness and fulfillment. So I'm really excited to have her on the show to talk about the book and to talk about another avenue for enriching our lives and bettering ourselves. So Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here too and to answer any questions and give whatever help however I can.
Wonderful. Well, I would love to just start with your book. I have not had a chance to pick it up yet, but I'm really excited because I feel like it was written just for me and all of my problems. And I'm sure that's a lot of people. So I'd love to know, what made you decide to write that book, and what are some insights that you can provide for us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you. Thank you for saying that. And the reason actually I wrote the book is writing's always been a passion. It's always been an outlet, my therapy, just a way to get thoughts out. And at some point, I was just looking at all the women around me, like my family, colleagues, friends, and I'd see these amazing women doing remarkable things and yet just beating themselves up and just not seeing their worth. They are just feeling like, the title of my book is That's Life, or Is It? And it's really, because that's the idea. It's like, oh, I guess that's just what it is. That's life. And feeling stuck in a life that they're not completely fulfilled in. And I thought, no, you women are amazing. You're incredible people. And you don't see it. And, I just want to talk to that. And that's why when I write the book, it's in a very down to earth kind of way where it's like, no, you are capable. You can do the things you want to do. But just get out of your own way. And that means sometimes saying no. That means being very honest with yourself in terms of, do I want this? Or am I just supposed to want this? Like, what are the expectations? How can I use them in my favor? We talk about setting goals, but not just like vague, I want to be happier, but really something that's aligned with your values, with who you are, and that has meaning. We talk about saying no, saying no, but saying yes to yourself and saying yes to your health and your own experiences. We talk about, that I call it the troll, that inner critic that just yaps in your ear and keeps us from doing the things we want to do, and how to start, recognizing it and challenging it. And instead of seeing it as this evil troll, to kind of shift it towards, no, this could be a mentor. It's just really bad. It's just really bad at its job of protecting me. And how can I use it to help me? So we cover all kinds of things like that. And it's things that I learned and I'm still learning along the way. So, I drew from my own experiences, both personal experiences and then experiences as a therapist, and spoke to a bunch of other therapists. I have a chapter on finances and managing your finances. Definitely went to a lot of financial advisors, got their input and just put it all together and looked at the things that we as women, especially, look, a lot of these apply to anybody, but as women, especially when it comes to people pleasing, to doing everything for everyone else, forgetting about ourselves. Mm-hmm. So it really focused on those issues.
Yeah, I think that is fantastic. That's a resource out there. I'm actually a semi-reformed people pleaser. I'm working on it. And you talk about the troll that lives in our heads. Yeah, definitely there. I mean, I have friends that are like, how can you have self worth issues? You have a top podcast, you know, you're doing great in your field. And I'm like, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
You know. Like I may be very grateful for like the success that I have, and I believe in myself in a professional context, but like personally, it is a work in progress, you know? And I think that that happens more, you know, for women. I mean, I can only speak from a woman's perspective, but like I don't know, I feel like at least in our culture and in our society, you know, we're sort of shouldered with that having to be perfect and having to live up to certain standards, you know?
Yeah, and I think part of that is also it's interesting because it's these standards that we create or that are thrust upon us, but we think are thrust upon us. And
Right.
so it's sort of like we have to be this and we have to be that and we have to, I think of the America Ferrera scene from Barbie when she's talking about women, women have to be a certain way and we have to do that. And it's all these expectations. What we forget though is that we don't actually have to go along with that. We can decide what we want to do. And so it's like, yes, there may be all these expectations, and half the time they contradict one another, and it's very confusing and overwhelming until we step out and say, wait a second, what is it that we actually want with our lives? And what aligns with our values and who we are? And let's do that instead. And
Mm-hmm.
when that happens, we realize we're a little more empowered than maybe we thought we were.
In your work, what is something that you come across a lot that people struggle with, and what is the one piece of advice that you would give for that?
Um, so a lot of it is usually a tendency to people please. And it's funny you said you're semi-reformed. I call myself a people-pleasing addict in recovery. So I can absolutely relate
Very
to that.
similar, yeah.
Um, and usually that's the case. Many people are like, I just, I want to make other people happy. And it comes from a good place. It doesn't come necessarily from a bad place, but it comes from an anxious place. And also just, I want to, I'm agreeable. I want to get along with people. So but what happens is they tend to lose themselves when it's always the focus is on other people and their happiness. They forget about their own. So my advice, it's simple, but it's not always easy, is to just take a step back. And even if you're used to always doing things for other people, and always just someone asks you, you say yes right away. My advice is just tell them a few simple words. It'll change your life, but it's so simple. Let me get back to you. And then let me get back to you, and then give it time, like, let me get back to you tonight, in an hour, tomorrow, whatever it is. And then take a step back and actually ask yourself, do I want to do this? Do I see value in doing this other than people pleasing? Like, is there something in it and not necessarily like, oh, it's in it from just for me, but just, does it align with my values? Do I have time for this? And do I want to do it? Because sometimes you don't want to do things, and that's okay. And maybe it's okay to say, no, I don't want to do this. Let's do something else instead. And then you actually get to do the thing you want to do. Or I can't do this right now. That's okay. Sometimes we're busy. It's fine.
That is really great. I'm gonna have to write that down for myself because that is fantastic, and it is a wonderful piece of advice. So simple but so effective because, like you said, it gives people, especially people pleasers, semi-reformed people pleasers, a
Yeah.
chance to step back and really figure out, okay, what do I really want? Where's my behavior coming from? You
Yeah.
know, am I agreeing just because I don't want to make my friend mad? You know.
Exactly. And you'd be amazed and that's the other thing. When somebody asks us, we feel on the spot and we feel we have to answer right away.
Mm-hmm.
And we might even know, I don't want to do this, but saying no can be kind of scary. So give yourself that space to sort of think about it, really do what you want to. Because how often, and it's happened to me a bunch of times, yes, damn it, why did I say yes? I did not want to do that thing. So give yourself that space to really think about, do I actually want it? Like, let me really listen to myself. And if I don't want to do it and I see no value in doing it, then let me practice saying no. It's going to be hard and you're going to feel the guilt and you're going to feel all those things. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And what's actually really fun, and I've seen it with clients, I've seen it with myself, is The first time you say no, it's really hard, and you're like, and you're practically spitting it out, like it's like this gross thing in your mouth, and you're like, well, you say no, but then for a split second, you just feel like, and then you feel empowered because, like, oh my God, I actually chose myself, and the world didn't end. Like most of the time, people are okay. The people who genuinely care about you are going to respect the boundaries. They might, you might get a bit of pushback because people aren't used to your no, but
Mm-hmm.
those who care about your well-being are going to respect the no. Those who tend to be a little more self-involved and tend to see you as someone that they can just take and take and take from, well, likely that friendship is not going to last, which could be sad and hard. And at the same time, is that somebody you want to keep spending energy on?
I love that
Mhm.
you talk about spending energy on things. What are some things that invigorate you personally and then help you be there for your clients and your
Yeah.
patients?
Yeah. Thank you. Great question. Writing, right? When I allow myself to just play and write for the fun of writing. And so that's always just, it's fun. It's a passion. Um, Going for walks is great. Exercising, like the regular health type of stuff, like doing exercising regularly. Um, and honestly, sometimes it's just time alone, just with myself, just jotting down a few notes and spiritually, connecting spiritually and meditating and making sure like every morning I have my spiritual time that it's non-negotiable. It has to happen every morning because that'll set me up for the day. Gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And I know gratitude is a buzzword, and I always caution people when they say, especially clients, are like, "Oh, I'm practicing gratitude." I'm like, "Oh, awesome. How are you doing it?" And if they say, "Oh, I'm just like kind of listing off things that I'm grateful for," but like I feel guilty because it's like, yeah, of course, obviously, I'm grateful for my friends and family, but it doesn't. It's sort of like I should be, and yet I'm still feeling heavy. What I tell people is when you practice gratitude, actually break it down to the day and just think of moments in the day that just made you happy. It's like, oh, there was sun after a week of clouds. That felt so nice. And the small, simple moments. And when you do that and you allow yourself to relive them, you get to feel that joy again. And it's a more sincere gratitude. So it actually does kind of give you more of a balance of the day. It's not like, oh, all these negative things happened. It's like, no, there are actually nice moments within the day as well. So I try to practice that every evening to just sort of rebalance my day.
I notice it certainly feels like being mindful and having being an active in one's mental health is really on the rise lately,
Mhm.
which is, I think, fantastic. What do you have to say about mindfulness currently?
Yeah. So mindfulness is wonderful. What we want to do though is be present and be present in the moment. Sometimes people confuse mindfulness with over analyzing the feelings and going in circles and that actually can lead to more misery when you're just sort of stuck in your head and stuck in your thoughts and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about mindfulness of right now, I'm here. I'm having a lovely conversation with you. And I'm just enjoying this moment and I'm just very focused on this moment. Depression lives in the past, anxiety lives in the future. When you're present and you're really fully present, your brain doesn't have time to be anxious or sad because it's right in the moment. And it's just observing what's actually happening.
I love that perspective, and I'd not heard that before, actually, that depression lives in the past and anxiety lives in the future, but I can totally see that. I can totally see that. Like, I deal with anxiety, and I'm like a planner
Yeah.
to try to like control that. And when I practice mindfulness, it's just, I'm blown away by the fact that the anxiety just like falls away because you can't think about it when you're being present in the moment, like you know in whatever it is you're doing. Like, I've noticed if I go outside and just sit outside, I am so much more present in everything because breathing in fresh air, and I hear the birds and
Yeah.
the wind and the trees and things of that
Yeah.
nature. It's amazing how that powerful that
And
is.
it's so powerful. And that's the thing we forget because anxiety's trying to warn us like, oh, be careful, you might get hurt, you might get hurt. When you're in the present moment, well, you're safe. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're not hurt, there's nothing bad happening, you're in the present moment. And here's the other piece we forget: if something bad is happening, we don't have time to get anxious about it. We're just reacting. Like the house is on fire. You're not gonna be like, how do I feel about this house? I'm really worried. You're gonna be like, no, let me get the heck out of there. Let me grab my loved ones and get out. And we forget that we are very capable of dealing with situations when they come. And we know that because look, we've survived up until now. So it hasn't gotten us yet, right?
Yeah.
And so to trust that we do have the capacity. And when we're in the present moment, actually, we're even more capable of addressing the issue because we're actually seeing it for what it is instead of what we think it might be.
My podcast, as you know, is called Creative Piecemeal, and it's centered in the creative and fine arts. So I was wondering, you know, what are your thoughts about the creative arts and mental health in regarding like imposter syndrome, or like you were talking about anxiety and sort of, you know, needing to be more mindful? How does that affect a person's creative output?
Yeah. And it's so interesting because, on one hand, creativity is a great way to release the anxiety, to allow yourself like a space to just let your thoughts go and like go into imagination land and create something. Like it's a beautiful outlet. On the other hand, you're right. When there's imposter syndrome, I think it's when we get focused on the others. How will other people react? How what will other people think? And we forget the reason why we're doing that, which is to create something, to express ourselves. And what I'm noticing, and even as myself, as I'm working on a book right now, it's very easy. And so I completely understand. And I'll find myself falling into that imposter, into that like, oh, what will people think? Oh, this isn't good enough, especially the it's not good enough. I don't know. That's something you encountered, but that was something that was really common. And so when people fall into that, um, it's we're losing track of who we're doing it for. And yes, on some level, you are doing it to entertain others and for others. Ultimately, though, we're doing it to create something and to bring something from us, from within us, into the world. And when you focus it back on, like, well, do I like what I'm doing? Do I like what I'm creating? Do I like what is it meaningful for me? Then you're probably going to come up with a product that really reflects who you are and with something that's more genuine and authentic, which people tend to respond better to. So again, it's to shift out, recognize, am I doing it for others right now? If the answer is yes, take a step back, do what I need to do to calm down, to and focus it back on, is this making me happy? Is this like, am I creating something that's meaningful to me? And what does that look like? And how can I bring it back to that? Maybe I steered so off track. I need to kind of go back and be like, no, no, no. This is something that's meaningful to me that I want to show to the world. And that's, again, people respond to authenticity over and over and over again. We see that. We see that with like most forms of art, if not all, I'd argue.
Yeah, yeah. If you've been feeling burned out, stressed, overwhelmed, or exhausted, the resources and courses at the Self Care Institute are here to support you. The Self Care Institute was founded by Dr. Ami Kunimura and provides support for individuals and organizations with burnout prevention, burnout recovery, and stress management. I've personally taken a few of these courses and found them to be super helpful, both professionally and personally. The care you give yourself matters just as much as the care you give to others. But if self-care is difficult for you, you're not alone. And the Self-Care Institute is here to support your well-being, resilience, and sense of fulfillment at work and at home. For more information, visit selfcareinstitute.com or go to the show notes and click on the link. Excellent. You talk about how you're writing a book and you already have one out, but what does the writing process look like for you? Are there any rituals that you like to do? Is there anything that you like do not look forward to in terms of the creative and writing process? And is there anything that you absolutely love?
Yeah. So it's two different. Like the book that I wrote was more of a self-help book, and at the time I was working full-time at a hospital. Like I had like my schedule was pretty packed. So, and in a way that was almost at the now I've figured something out, but at the beginning it was almost better because it would force me to pick a time and be like, this is the only time I have, so I have
Mhm.
no choice but to write at this time. So every morning, what I learned for me is that I tend to be more creative in the morning. So I would write out whatever, recognize, and here's the part that I think, so that it's kind of like answering both questions at the same time. Recognizing that the first stuff I'm going to write is probably going to be garbage and it's going to sound horrible and the words won't be just right. And to just be like, you know what, it's okay. Just get those ideas out. And what I need to keep reminding, and that's the part I hate the most. It's like, it's not sounding as nice I wanted to sound. This is garbage. And so like, and many more self-depreciating things that I tell myself in those moments. And that's the part I hate. However, what I need to keep reminding myself of is I need to get all that out so that I can find what I actually want to say. I need to get the nonsense out to find the actual truth of what I want to tell. And I find that's the part that's fun. Like when you're like, okay, I got like, I was feeling stuck. I wasn't sure where to go. I started writing things. They all sounded horrible. But then I found that nugget. And then once you go with that and it starts developing and you see it creating and you see yourself saying what you want to say, well, that's like the best. That's just such a fun feeling.
That's wonderful. I I am the kind of writer that I only write fiction, but all of yours are more geared towards, of course, self-help and nonfiction. Would you ever delve into the fiction world just for
Well,
fun?
I'm doing that now, actually. And that's been a
Oh,
lot of fun. That's been so much fun.
oh, that's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, no, and it's a whole other world. And I'm loving it because it's like your imagination is like, there's no limit. You can do anything and go anywhere. How do you find that, the fiction world?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love it so much. I love it so much. And it's like a little escape. It's like taking your brain on vacation, right? You know?
Yeah,
Like even if you're stuck at home and you can't travel to distant worlds or whatever, you can just make up something.
yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
And it's so fun, and it's fun to develop the characters, and then to be like, what's driving them? Or why would they react this way? And to really get into it's, I love it. It's been a lot of fun so far.
Is there a piece of writing advice that you ignore and one that you always follow?
So one of the ones that I forget, and then once I'm reminded of them, follow, is get it out and then edit it. Like you can't edit a blank page, so
True, true.
write it down, even if it's bad. Like I said, that's the part I hate the most. But then you'll be able to fix it up and really get what you want to say. Um, I don't know if there's anything that I ignore consistently, anyways. Um, what about you?
um, yeah, that's really great. Such a great question. I have a really hard time following the advice of not editing over and over again.
Yeah,
Like,
I do.
like I will edit my beginnings or first like 5 chapters of something over and over and over again, and like they'll just be so polished and so finite, and then the rest of the book will just be like an absolute mess, right? And my friends are like, you would finish a book a lot faster if you just kept going.
I hear that though. I kind of do that too. Well, it's because I don't know about you, but like after I finish one chapter, like I'll do chapter one, edit it 1,000 times. It's almost also procrastination because I'm like, I'm not sure where chapter two is going. But then once that starts, I do that. But then I go back to chapter one to make sure that chapter one and two flow well. Because you write something, you
Of
might forget
course.
something, and then it doesn't. So I don't know. I don't know how you don't keep going back and re-editing because you want to make sure that the chapters flow. So I don't like I wouldn't ignore that advice. I think I mean I would ignore that advice because you kind of need to.
Yeah.
Otherwise your story become imagine writing the whole thing and then you realize like the middle chapter and then another chapter just completely contradict each other and completely contradicts the story and now you have to start all like no. Like
Right? That would be a nightmare. I mean, I have heard that people have to sometimes have to rewrite whole books, and I'm like, that sounds like a horrible scenario. I would cry buckets if that happened to me, I
oh
think.
man. Which is why we edit throughout. So
Right? Yes, exactly. Save ourselves the trouble there.
oh my goodness, yeah.
What are some authors that you like to read, whether it's for fun or for your work?
So for fun, like I always loved Chuck Palahniuk. He's the guy who wrote Fight Club,
Mhm.
and then a bunch of other books. And honestly, I'm probably most inspired by him because just he's great. He's brilliant and hilarious and really like great at satire. And um, so I like him. Lately, I've been getting into Dostoevsky, whose name I just so I did Crime
Yeah,
and Punishment now.
I
I'm
love
back.
that book.
Oh, it's so good. It's
So
like
good.
this man is like just brilliant at like just delving into the psychology of characters, their motivations, crime and punishment. Like I hate the main guy. He's horrible, but yet I'm still like stressed out with him as he's going through his journey.
Right? Yeah, you almost like kind of like semi root for him, and you're like, wait, what's
Yeah.
happening here?
And then yeah, exactly. And now I'm tackling the Karamazov brothers. So
Oh,
I'm really
nice.
excited to get through this. So he's if ever anybody wants to learn how to write great characters or just write wonderful stories, he's your man. Like I haven't seen anyone do better than him. Like it's really amazing. So I think those would be my two main guys right now.
Excellent. Yeah, if you enjoy Dostoevsky, you may enjoy Amor Towles. He wrote he's currently living. He
Mhm.
There's a book he wrote called A Gentleman in Moscow, and they just recently have a TV show about it
Oh
with
yeah,
and
right.
it's
With Ewan McGregor, right? The
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. And it's oh my gosh, fabulous book, literary fiction, but has a very Dostoevsky feel to it. So I think you'd enjoy
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah. I'll absolutely check that out.
Yeah.
Actually, my mother-in-law, um, well, she's Ukrainian. She reads a lot of Russian authors, and she was just talking about how she read that book, and she was like curious to see about the show. So yeah, I'll check that out. And also, The Master and the Margarita is an amazing book.
Ooh, I've not heard of that one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's brilliant. It's also great characters, satirical, and just very funny, and just has so many pockets of wisdom. It's A plus.
It's always a miracle when I can get out of a bookstore without a new book.
Oh, I know. And then I don't know about like I always because I love it and I love the feel of a book. Like I can never quite do the Kindle. Like I like having books that I can hold and highlight and I get all these books and then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to actually read them. And to the point where like I will not buy a new book until I read it. And then I'm like, but you know what? I just haven't read the Karamazov brothers and I just really want to read that right now. And then I buy a book anyways. So
Yep, yep. Yeah, I have a stack of books that I have yet to read. I'll get to them eventually.
eventually.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I hear that.
So jumping back to you personally in your career, what is a barrier that you can share that you had to overcome, whether it was an internal or external, to reaching your current point?
Yeah. So definitely, there's been a few. Definitely the people pleasing and the imposter syndrome. That like not good enough, have to be better, have to prove myself. Which made me a very, effective worker,
Mm,
but it didn't let me step outside my comfort zone or go after my goals because I was never good enough. So long as, I had a boss to tell me, I used to work in the hospital and I had the structure, yeah, you'd have the initial, oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing. And then, like anything else, the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel. But that security um, kept me maybe there longer than I needed to be.
mm,
Um, because there were all these, like, I wanted to start a private practice. I wanted to eventually just leave the hospital and do some coaching things, do some writing, and do some other things. But it wasn't, but that fear, I'd say was a big obstacle, kept me from taking that step and that belief of like, oh, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. Um, my husband has been a wonderful support in that, has been a wonderful, like he's been great at encouraging me and he was also very good at helping me. So I'm the people pleaser. He's not at all. To learn like, hey, you can say no. You can set boundaries. You can express yourself. And so he's been a great support for that. But I would say that would like the people pleasing and the not good enough and sort of getting in my own way of
mm,
things. And then eventually an opportunity happened where I was able to leave the hospital. And I had to choose. I actually was forced to choose between staying at the hospital or pursuing this other opportunity. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to do that. It didn't end up working out, which was okay actually, because even though it sort of at the time had pretty devastating consequences to your ego, well, to my ego, and to just like, oh, it's validated. I really am not good enough, and all those
mm.
things. it actually pushed me to a point where I needed to start working on myself and really delve deep into these beliefs I had about myself and these viewpoints and reconnect spiritually and just a lot of things that I had been sort of neglecting, taking care of my mind, body, health, like mind, body, and soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
And through that, though, and I'm grateful for that every day. I'm grateful that it didn't work out and that I failed miserably, because in that failure, I had that opportunity to really grow and finally confront some of those demons and move past those demons and figure things out. And now I'm kind of on my own schedule. I'm doing the counseling through therapy center, and it's very independent. Writing, like I'm just doing what I love doing. So it's like I'm very grateful for that experience, even though it was very, very painful at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I came across a quote the other day. Let me see if I have it. So it was on. I saw it on Instagram, and I don't remember who originally posted it, but it says sometimes you get what you want, and other times you get a lesson in patience, timing, alignment, empathy, compassion, faith, perseverance, resilience, humility, trust, meaning, awareness, resistance, purpose, clarity, grief, beauty, and life. And either way, you win. And I'm like, oh,
Oh, yes.
that hits
Beautiful.
deep, right?
Yes, that's beautiful. That's yes. Agree. 100%. No.
Yeah,
That's
because
the
yeah, because like you said, you went through some things that you weren't expecting. Things didn't quite go the way you hoped. But now you've come out of that and you have a book. You're able to do things you love. You're able to carve out time to be creative in a way that you maybe didn't have the opportunity in your previous jobs.
yeah, exactly. Exactly that. And that's it. Like, and I think the more we let ourselves go through, I think we're and it's understandable. We're afraid of failure because it's painful and it's pleasant. Like I don't know many people are like, yay, this was a fun failure. Like it's
Right?
not. However, it's in those moments that there's so much opportunity for growth. And I think the more we experience that and then realize that we can overcome that, the more confident we are and the less afraid of failure we become. Because we're like, okay, it's this thing, it's not pleasant, but I can get past it. And actually, I can probably become something even better because of it. And once you can shift to that mentality, then honestly, there's nothing you can't accomplish.
I love that, you've you're doing something you love and you're on the rise. And I was just curious, where do you see yourself and your business in the next 3 to 5 years?
Uh, Good question. Because I'm also going to be starting a YouTube channel where we're just talking about, using pop culture and just sort of like, hey, from a therapist perspective on certain things. So I'd like to see that growing. I honestly, I just want to reach and help as many people as I can, whether it's through coaching programs, whether it's through these videos, um, whether it's even through the therapy practice. So it's hard to have like a concrete image other than if I can get out there and help as many people as possible, amazing. Hopefully, I'd like to get that fiction book to some kind of publisher somewhere and get it out there in the world. That would be a lot of fun. Those would be my goals within the next 3 to 5 years.
That sounds great. Yeah, and I mean, the thing to remember though is that you're already making an impact. You've
Thank
got your
you.
book out there, you're already consulting, and you never know where the impact that you have on those people you see right now is spreading to other people, and
Mhm.
not only their life. So,
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah.
And it's true. I think in general, I think sometimes we forget just the impact we have on others just by being ourselves, just by being there for someone. And it can be the smallest thing that we say that to us is just, it's honest and authentic, but it's just sort of like just a thought. And then and it's happened sometimes where someone came back, it's like, Angela, like I'll have an intervention with someone, I'm like, all right, this is a good intervention. I felt it. And then weeks later, they'll be like, oh my God, Angela, when you said that thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, it was that other thing. And they'll be like, and they'll just say the most random thing. And I'm like, I said that. Like, I don't even remember saying that. So you never know the impact you have on people. And I think so long as we're authentic and we're just genuinely ourselves, we'll attract, people respond well to that.
Yeah,
And we'll be impacted by that
of
kindness
course.
and that authenticity.
Yes. You talked about how you do writing, but are there any other creative arts that you would love to just delve into just for fun?
Um, Writing for sure is the main one. Sometimes for fun, but it's really for fun. And like I'll just grab some water paints and I can't even really call it painting, but I'll do something with a canvas somewhere. But again, it's just sort of an outlet, and that's a lot of fun. Like just letting myself be a kid again with paints and just like and just splash it around and see what happens. Um, I would love to do music, but I'm just so like um I've tried different things like piano or I even got a ukulele. I'm just not dexterous dexterous enough to do it, but I think eventually at some point I'd like to maybe learn an instrument.
Nice, nice. And I love the way you described how you do painting and watercoloring, that you just like there's no rules, there's no expectations. You
Yeah.
just let yourself enjoy it, and just
Yeah.
be in the moment. That's beautiful.
Mhm. And what about yourself? What hobbies would you love to do?
Well, podcasting, of course.
Yeah.
But a little more on the lighter edge. I like to color like mandalas and like flowers, like
Nice.
because I'm not very good at like actual drawing and painting and arts and crafts, but something that's already set up, I'm like, oh, okay, I can do that. Um, and that's pretty fun. And I like the tactile of like feeling the crayon against the paper.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
For
And so that's been really fun lately.
And you can make such pretty design. Like you can take a black and white picture and really just make it pop with the different colors and how you like. There's so much creativity that goes into coloring. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. It's something I only discovered I enjoyed again. Like, you love it as a kid, but you don't really think about it, right? But
Yeah.
I realized I discovered liking it as an adult just like maybe a month or so ago. And I'm like, this is a game changer for my
Yes.
anxiety.
For sure. Because again, you're in the present moment and you're just very focused on what you're doing and it's soothing and relaxing. Yeah.
It's
No, that's
nice.
amazing.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. No, it is. It's really, and it's actually been shown to help decrease levels of anxiety or anxiety symptoms. Because again, you're in the moment, you're relaxed, your body's relaxed. And, I also suspect it calls back to childhood and to moments that were happier and simpler. And and sometimes, you said something and it made me think like, oh, I used to love it as a kid. I think it might be fun to look back to like, what are things we used to love as a kid because as a child, you can do whatever you want. Like there's no limits. You can just be as ridiculous as you want. And people will be like, they're just a kid. And
Hmm.
then as we become adults, we kind of lose some of that. So if you can look back at like, what did we love doing as a kid and just do it? Like sometimes my husband will laugh because I look ridiculous. I'll just put on some music and I'll just dance. Like, you know how they say dance like nobody's watching? Exactly that. And I'll just move my body and it's just fun. And it's just like, and I look ridiculous. Like there's no way I'm dancing like that in public. But it's just a way to like unleash that inner child and just have fun again.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love just finding things that bring a little bit of happiness, whether it's
Yes.
like a really good cookie or something, or just sitting in the sunshine.
Oh my God, that's such like the sun is amazing.
Yes.
Especially here in Montreal. We'll go through our cloudy periods and we'll go through the winters can be brutal. So whenever there's a bit of sun, it's like, yes, come.
Yeah, I was gonna say you up there it gets really cold and like snowy, right?
Yeah, yeah, it could. This year wasn't so bad compared to previous years. But yeah, we go through our periods of a lot of snow and a lot of and it gets cold and cloudy. I don't even I think I don't even mind the cold if there's sun. It's just when we have like weeks of clouds where it's like gets a bit heavier.
Yeah, yeah. Understandable. Yeah, I'm here in Texas presently and it is very sunny right now, but it gets super hot. So it's like, how long can I stand the heat?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other end of the spectrum.
Right? Yeah. Gotta find a happy medium.
Yeah. 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 Like spring and fall. Very nice. Not too hot, not too cold. And even then, it's okay to have some warmth. I like what I love about Canada is we get the four seasons. Granted, autumn and spring last like a week or two, but we still get to see the four seasons. And it makes you appreciate the warmer seasons. And even sometimes when it's too hot, it's like, okay, well, it's gonna get cooler soon. So that's okay. Um, but yeah, having a happy balance.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So, one more question for you. bouncing back to the more serious, in your own words, what does it mean? What does it mean to live a creative life?
Um, Honesty, just being like, I think being very honest with yourself and let honesty and being honest, being courageous, and that courageous in expressing the truth as you see it, and expressing and being able to openly express yourself. It's such a scary thing to do. And if you can, so honesty, fearlessness, and just taking the leap.
I love that. I love that. And because you never know where the leap can lead.
And that's kind of fun. I don't know about you, but I kind of like that part.
Excellent. Well, Angela, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Such a joy. Listeners, please check out the show notes for links to her website where you can connect with her for consulting and coaching, as well as connecting to purchase her book. And as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Like the show? Have a question? Stop by the Facebook and Instagram pages. Links are in the show notes, or search for Creative Piecemeal Podcast on social media and click follow for all the latest.